Finnish whiskey. When you think about it, you probably think a number of different brands, but I bet you don't think about Whistlepig. Yeah, Whistlepig. Those guys. They recently put out their Alfa Romeo collaboration. Now this is a finished version of their standard 6-year PIggyBack rye whiskey, done with tea and lychee. Sounds a little wild, right? This might be the craziest finished whiskey I have ever had in my life, and as you can see, it's been to a couple shares and I've had a bunch of people try it. But let me tell you a little background before we dig into the notes here. Most of the time, if you're thinking finished whiskeys, you're probably thinking maybe Penelope. Maybe you're going higher end. You're thinking something like the Joseph Magnus, Cigar Blend versus Murray Hill. Maybe you're going to think something like Starlight, because they do so many different crazy finishes. For locals here in Washington, we probably think Woodinville Whiskey Company. If you're looking for some of the up-and-comers, you might look at something like Barrel King or Dragon's Milk. Obviously, I have a few of those. I don't ever think about Whistlepig in that way. Most of the time when I think Whistlepig, I'm like, that's that weird rye whiskey that tastes like wet dirt and grass. I recently went to an event at a local store, and they had a Whistlepig themed tasting going on, along with a Whistlepig rep. And I tried a number of different things, including their barrel picks, and I just really wasn't that impressed. It's kind of the second time I've tried Whistlepig, and I just was not something I really wanted to buy. The guy kept warning me, like, hey, save this one for last. And then I tried this Alfa Romeo. At 96.77 proof, this is a big collaboration as a part of their Legends series. The previous release, they did one with Big Papi from the Red Sox, if you're familiar with him. That's David Ortiz. They are doing some really crazy finishes, and most of the Whistlepig stuff that's finished, unless you're buying Boss Hogs, you are not familiar with this at all. This one really changed my thoughts on how far a finished whiskey can go. This is going to be a kind of a newer version of the segment. We're not going to worry so much about, like, say, 2 Minute Tuesday, but we are going to do this in 2 minutes. But this will be kind of the first experiment, if you were, of how we're going to treat finished whiskeys. I want to know if you guys are interested in the comments down below. Let me know. Do you like finished whiskey? Are you interested in hearing more, trying more finished whiskeys? Maybe it's a little more informal and not as formal as 2 Minute Tuesday, but I would like to know in the comments down below. So with that being said, let's get this thing on the palate. Now, it's finished, so the color's kind of cheating, but the color has a nice deeper color for a 6-year product. The tea's probably helping there with that tea barrel finish. And viscosity-wise, this is 96.77 proof, so you can kind of see not the craziest legs, but there's definitely some running down through here. Nose. I get surprised every time I smell this. Dude, it's so fruity. It's very almost cocktaily on the nose. Like, you can smell a little bit of the rye. That's such an undernote. You get this big, almost pineapple-y citrus note, which is probably the lychee's influence, and then there definitely is a little herbal note from the tea that's sitting underneath it. It just smells like a cocktail. It smells sticky and sweet and syrupy. It smells like a crazy dessert. You don't smell a ton of whiskey in there. I want to be very clear. Let's see if that changes on the palate. This is such a wild ride. I do get a little bit of the rye whiskey, and the 6-year PIggyBack is probably, of all the Whistlepig products, the one that I enjoy. The older they get, they kind of get this weird flavor profile that I don't like. But this, you get a little bit of rye spice, and then you have this huge, and I really think, like, very tropical pineapple, sweet, sticky, syrupy sweetness. Man, it lingers really, really well, but it also does, like, just coat the palate in a way that is almost like a syrup and less like whiskey. Don't drink this first, is what I'm saying. If you're gonna have this at any time, use this like a dessert pour. This is kind of how you finish your night off. The way it kind of handles you is up front you get a little touch of spice, and then you go into this mixture of that big, sweet, syrupy, pineapple forward kind of thing, and it's definitely the lychee saying hi. But then there's also, in the undertones, there is this nice kind of herbal note from the tea, but it's very supplemental. This is just adding a little bit to help pull that sweetness down so that it's not just so sweet you can't taste anything else. Let's talk overall score. I like this a lot, but I understand that if we're thinking about whiskey, we want something that tastes more whiskey forward. And so in that regard, I have to give this a 65. If I did this completely objectively as just alcoholic beverage, I would probably crack this well into the 80s, because I love how just like wild and different it is than almost any other finished whiskey I've ever had. That lychee sweetness that gets that kind of almost pineapple-y citrus thing going on, oh, that hits me so well. It hits me so well, and I like this a lot. And it's a single barrel, so it's like kind of limited edition. There's not a lot of them. It's gonna be hard to find extras. I was like happy to get one, and they were limiting us to one at the store I was at because they wanted to make sure everybody attending could get at least one. And a few of their extra customers who couldn't make it to the event because it is a limited edition and they're only doing it once, at least for now. I don't know how much the collaboration with Alfa Romeo matters. The Alfa Romeo folks did pick the barrels, and I think they have some influence on like the finishing combination in some way, shape, or form. That part there's not that much detail on. They have a phenomenal promo video though, and that'll be down in the description. I think if you want something relaxed and easy, especially during the summer, you want something sweet and cocktaily, you're not looking to kind of like have a super high proof whiskey, this is a super awesome pour. It just tasted lovely and sweet and delicious, and it's different. It's so different. When I think a lot of other Finnish whiskeys, like rum finishes, or even some of like the brandy finishes, things like that, all the crazy like rum, honey, and toasted finishes that get done here, or like Barrel King does all their like, hey, we take a bunch of other rare bourbons and we finish using those to bring all these other crazy profiles, like this is finished in Stag or OWA or something like that, right? And it brings this like weird wild roller coaster of a ride to the flavor palette. That's what this does, but it's so different and so unique compared to every other Finnish whiskey out there that I almost feel like it's one of those things that you have to experience. This is one where I feel like if you can find this at a bar somewhere, a store that does samples, and they have one open, you need to try this because, again, I rated it low because when I think Finnish whiskey, and I think for most of us, we want to taste the whiskey. But if you think of this purely as just an alcoholic beverage, I would put this in like 86 range. I'm not joking you. I love what this does on my palate. We're thinking about bourbon and whiskey. We want that whiskey to come forward. We want the finish to be supplemental to the whiskey, not to be like the whiskey's there, the finish is doing all the work, right? So that's why I score it the way I do. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. Have you had this? Have you had the previous collaboration they did with David Ortiz? Have you tried some of the 10 Commandments Whistlepig? Are you a Whistlepig fan? Are you going to tell me I'm completely wrong and I don't understand their whiskey? I want to hear from you in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed this video and you're not subscribed, consider subscribing, maybe give it a like. It's one of the best ways to help us small whiskey channels keep doing what we're doing. Tells Papa YouTube, hey, I like this, someone else will too. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.